Before we begin, I do want to say that I'm glad it got renewed because I would rather every show got more seasons because they can always get better. Sometimes they get worse, but if they get better, then I get to see a good show and that's always good. But I don't think this was a very good season overall. And we're going to talk about the finale.
They put a lot of eggs in this basket and season 2 is where they're going to hatch a lot.
The first thing you said about the show was, this is episode 1. We're getting a 6-hour episode 1.
Yeah, literally. So that's why I'm happy. Even though it might have been my favorite show, I'm glad it's getting a season 2 also because this was written in such a way that season 1 needed to be like this, so that hopefully season 2 we can really...
Potentially also some weirdly cut episodes, it seems like there's a lot on the cutting room floor. But it's not a bad show. There's a lot of elements here that I like quite a lot, but as a whole, it's just really not working for me. And I think it's because they're busy with lore dumps instead of giving us character. Like, especially this episode, the characters can't really flourish because the episode is split up between flashbacks and everything culminating in the present day, which is why it's an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes long.
Yeah, long.
But the flashbacks aren't flashbacks in the way that they reveal new information or show information in a different light. I'm a big hater of flashbacks a lot of the time because I find them lazy. I thought episode 3's flashback was actually pretty good because I think it should have been the show. But here, the flashbacks aren't anything except explaining what we already know.
That's why I think episode 3 works so well, is because it's a completely different story than what we're already living. Whereas you're seeing a lot of the same beats.
What we find out in the flashbacks, we already found out in the last episode that Tula had a baby. And we're like, oh, the one person we've seen her bang, that is the father. Cool. In this flashback, they say, oh, I'm pregnant. The father is Ori Atreides. And we're like, yes, we know.
Yep.
And then Valya says, oh, don't worry, we'll keep the baby because I'm about to become Mother Superior. We have seen her become Mother Superior. And then she goes and kills Lila's mum. We already saw that, but now we see it from Tula's perspective, which doesn't really change anything because she was right there. They all decide that they're going to form the new Bene Gesserit, which we've already seen. I guess the only revelation is the Indian woman definitely is the older Indian woman.
Yeah.
Like, cool. And the Asian one is the one that died in the first episode. So we haven't seen her for 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Except for in the 3rd episode flashbacks. And then they decide to kill all the other zealots as well by giving them a choice of join the new Bene Gesserit or...
They kill like 60% of them.
Go out with the old. Old crone survives. So that was the one thing that I'm like, oh, that's why she's such a bitch.
Yeah.
She wasn't actually wanting to be part of this. She just didn't want to die. But we already know that all of them probably died. And we've already seen Tula commit a mass murder. So this mass murder isn't much more dramatic because we've already seen that. And I think my big sticking point in the flashbacks is I don't know how their ideologies are different.
The old Bene Gesserit and the new Bene?
Yeah, because the old Bene Gesserit is also Mother Raquella, who was the one doing the thinking machine, which is what Valya carried on. So then Raquella's daughter hated that for some reason, but that's the only thing they didn't agree with. But no one else knew about that because that was a secret. The thinking machine was a secret.
I think we needed a show about the young Bene Gesserit, the early Bene Gesserit, where we find out what Mother Raquella, what her original plan for it was,
what the original
and what
ideology.
Valya wanted it to become.
That should have been the whole show, though.
Literally, what she also wanted it to become because she has her own little mini cult inside of it.
Yeah.
And then who's going to win and whose ideas clash with whose and who teams up with who, whatever. Instead, we don't really know what the original Bene Gesserit was supposed to be.
It hasn't even been given an episode.
No. From the first episode...
It starts with, these guys are zealots, by the way. It's like the clique thing in high schools.
Yeah, but we literally start the first episode with the old ways are dying, or the original ways are dying. Valya is the new heir essentially to the throne because of her mother's yes, Valya, you're here.
I choose this chick over this chick for some reason.
We think that that's the way that it's always going to be, what it's supposed to be. But then when you see the old Reverend Mother chooses Valya over Dorothea and her cult, which I guess she didn't like where her cult was going.
Yeah. Although she was fine with Dorothea when she was the only choice because Valya didn't take the poison.
Yeah.
So she wasn't dang. She was like, okay.
And then it's I'm going to revive our ways how they were. That's what she says. Lila as her mom.
At the very end, she storms off saying, I'm going to bring us back to the way we were. And that's when my brain went, what were you?
Yes, because your mother's vision, or your grandmother's vision, the original Reverend Mother, was more in line with Valya. At least that's from what we know.
Yes.
And you can say in the book as much as you want, but this show hasn't done a good job of showing us what was the old, what was the cult, what was the new, and what are their differences in thinking.
Yes, exactly. And also, I kind of thought Raquella started the Order of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, you're not the first.
Yeah, because she was in the war. So if she decided, hey, I'm going to use a thinking machine in secret to make the God Emperor in 10,000 years, that's what you're for. So Dorothea is like, actually was a zealot, but I don't know what she wanted. So it's a weird scenario. And also the kids that follow her during that scene all say, we were reading your teachings. And we know nothing about any of those kids. We haven't seen them reading. We haven't seen them going against Valya.
We see the one acolyte reading from a book, and we see her read from a book to people at one point.
If you know the books, I guess you can line that up.
Valya destroyed, recordings and such.
Yes.
Why would she keep old doctrines of people who have started a cult? Why would she give them a pathway to get swayed?
A path to the dark side? Yeah, and also burying bodies in a lake is a terrible place to bury bodies, especially like they would have had to weigh those bodies down
as well, and they would weigh it down.
Yeah, I would assume gas bubbles would eventually come up.
There's a lot of logistics around it.
Also, if you can just pull the plug like Lila does at the end and shoot water out the side,
wouldn't that shoot the bones out there too?
Yeah, chuck all the bodies in the water, open that, shoot them into the ocean, and then refill it at some point.
But also, why do you need to hide the bodies like quickly in the lake?
If everyone died.
Maybe it's like, so we always remember. But also, if you're going to be starting something anew and you're the leader of this religion cult, why wouldn't you be like, okay, first order of business, we're going to get rid of the bodies. We're going to incinerate them, throw them into space.
We do have access to space. Yep. How did Lila know the bodies were there? The only person that would have known the bodies were there were a few of the other women, which does bring up the weird psychic, all-knowing ancestors.
Yeah.
So Dorothea knows she was murdered by Valya. She is an ancestor of Lila. She gave birth to Lila's mum before she died. So doesn't your genetic memory start when you shoot the baby out?
Yes, but when Lila...
Why does it continue?
When Lila became a reverend mother, she inherited all the memories from her mum.
Yes, but those memories should have started when you were born. Like, why did she get the memories from after she was born when she was murdered? She shouldn't know she was murdered. Do you know what I mean?
No, Dorothea would know she was murdered. Because
why?
So her book, you got to think of it as books. Her book ends when she got her throat slit. And so Lila, essentially, when she became a reverend mother, she gets access to everyone's book.
But that means they're psychic. That's not genetic memory if you get it after the fact. Okay, when Lila's born, she gets that book. She gets all of Dorothea's memories up until the point she popped out a baby.
No.
But that's how genetic memory works.
But it's not, you're thinking of, I think you're misconstruing how they access memories.
That's magic. You're just saying it's magic or psychic powers.
She doesn't get all her mum's memories up until that point. The ritual of becoming a reverend mother and doing the eye poison and accessing your ancestors lets you access all of their memories.
That's psychic magic.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Welcome
stupid.
to Dune.
That's stupid. That's not genetic memory. That's psychic magic.
Yeah, they're using the term like genetics and stuff, I think, a bit loosely.
Yeah, if you say genetic memory, that is at the point of birth, you pass down all your memories. That I'm fine with. That's sciencey.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
Whereas if when you die, your consciousness floats into the void, and then when your daughter half commits seppuku, it gets sucked back inside your daughter.
Well, that also brings a lot of questions up of if they're kind of like ethereal, ever knowing present beings.
I thought Dune was very against the whole magic thing.
It's weird. There's like some weird blurred lines because when Dorothea comes back, she doesn't know some stuff that's happened.
But she should.
That's what I thought. Maybe she should because she's a ghost.
And at the I'm so sorry if we're wrong, but please explain it. Because at the end of the episode, Tula is being guided by her ancestors. And she's getting guided around by the voices that are saying like, oh, your sister's over there. Like, turn left, go help your sister. You have to save Valya.
Yeah.
And then occasionally there's the bitchy one that like must be her mum or something that's just like, fuck Valya.
Yeah.
But like, that's psychic powers. That's not ancestral memory. That's magic.
So Final Fantasy, for example, crosses over magic and science kind of like together. But I think Dune fans don't like the crossover, even though something like Spice exists that acts like magic. Can Super Mega Dune fans explain? Yeah,
they've made the Star Wars. They've made your ancestral memory the Force, and it can guide you, which just seems strange.
If they can speak with their ancestors and their ancestors can speak with them through the ancestor mothers, the cloud.
So that's pretty much all the weirdness with ancestors and the stuff that happens on Wallach 9. We also have this section with Tula and the Doctor basically trying to figure out a way around the virus, the Techno virus. and they think they can basically transmute it the way they can with the waters of life blue stuff, and they attempt to. And it's a very weird scene because it's a lot of techno babble. This has to happen because otherwise the story can't, because basically Tula's like, I'm going to try to do this, but obviously the person that tries it to start with isn't going to be successful because that would be boring. So obviously the Little Miss side character has to go, no, allow me.
Hold on, you've seen me only once before and haven't formed an attachment.
Exactly. We should have formed an attachment so that when she burns up and dies, we're like, oh no, that character died.
But instead, they did it for a cause.
Yeah, instead I've seen this lady one time and I'm like, cool. I don't even think she did anything the first time. I think she rocked up for a second.
She sliced a bit of brainstem and was like, yes.
Yeah, doctor things. And then she left as well. So she dies in this scene, but we get like I'd say it's a pretty cool tug-of-war visual that is unfortunately juxtaposed with Tula saying, you can do this, fight it. Oh no, it's coming back. I'm like, lady, I can see the white fight the black. It's fine.
We're watching the yin yang.
Yeah. Like you're 100% showing me a perfect rendition of the fight going inside this woman.
She's doing like, have you ever seen people who do like the orgasm channeling? Yes. Where it's like, she's like, ah!
Or the fake, chiropractor without touching.
Yes.
Like that kind of real.
Yeah. She's like, it's like, you remember your teachings, control your body temperature, like.
It sounds like you hated it.
I did. I thought the acting was a bit cheesy, cliche.
I don't know how you're supposed to act that well, though.
Well, have you ever seen a movie before?
Have you ever seen like the CW? So they've got Supergirl doing this to like create hurricanes. You look stupid when you do magic.
They're not doing magic.
The opposition was her standing there just pulling faces.
Let's bring it away from magic then. It's Tula reacting to what's going on in front of her when her sister dies. That acting was dog shit.
It's because they have no attachment to each other.
Yeah, but it's like, that's dog shit. And you can see...
They're co-workers at best.
Or what immediately came to mind was like in an episode of House, when someone goes against what he said and someone fucks up and dies. He's like, shows this crazy different side of him, emotion, anger, rage, passion. Tula didn't show that. She showed like horrible acting sadness. But I understand one is a real actor and one is this woman I've never seen before.
Apparently she's a really big actor.
Why can't she act that?
I think it's one of the main problems with the Bene Gesserit, like Valya included. They're both meant to be in control of their emotions. They've trained for 30 years to be in control of their emotions.
The whole thing is about being in control of.
And they've given great actresses, and they're not allowed to do anything with that. They have to just be stagnant. Which is why Valya's only interesting scenes are when she's talking to Desmond, because then she actually gets to pretend to be scared. She gets to be like, oh, this person's actually an unknown to me, something interesting. I get to act for a second here. And it does show Valya's best scene in the whole season when she's in the throne.
Yeah.
And she just gets to fucking roast the shit out of Harkonen. And it's just sad.
It's really sad because he really gets cucked by Desmond,
and
gets cucked by his wife and Desmond.
This is my new boyfriend. We're in charge now.
And then he's like, please, Valya, and then gets cucked by him and then just dies. No, and then he gets cucked by his mistress and then dies.
Yes, it's weird that she goes with her initial plan, as in she wants to get arrested, so she sits on the throne. That's pretty arrestable.
I really thought for a second she was gonna quick thinking. Okay,
like swap back, be like, this is good.
Operation God Emperor's back on, baby.
Me too, because that would seem like the smart thing to do. And you could be like, all right, I'll help you, but you have to release your daughter. And he's like, I am the king. I can release my daughter. This is fine. I am amenable. And then she can be like, also, fuck that Atreides guy. Keep him up there. I hate those guys. Because her whole motivation, the whole show has been like, fuck Atreides and put a girl on the throne. We don't really know why she wants to go on the throne apart from the betterment of mankind.
It's just because she's the perfect...
But why does Valya care? Why does Valya want...
Oh, do you know what? It's because they want a sister on the throne.
Yes,
because
but why?
They want one of theirs. It's just one of their... Someone they can have absolute control over.
But she... I just don't get... We haven't been in Valya enough to be like, why does Valya actually want this? Like, I get her joining the sisterhood because she wanted people that understood her and would she could better her name. But yeah, taking over the galaxy or the universe is a bit more of a, I need to know why.
This is no longer about creating your name, because
it's the way
the way I feel of it, this is kind of like taking the black in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
When you become, now she's just a reverend sister.
I think we spoke about it a bit last week. That's what the Bene Gesserit feels like it should be.
Yeah.
The blanket organization. Instead, it's Queen Valya. And then she's also like, but I want a puppet on the throne that is powerful, but also I'm in charge. Yeah. So it's like halfway between bettering her name, and you're right. It should be taking the black. It should be, I am part of the Night's Watch. I'm here for the betterment of the entire world.
That should have been what was holding her back the whole time, is that she could never forget Griffin and what happened with him. So that really stopped her from being able to like not tap into her full potential. It's not an anime, but it was holding her back from just letting loose and becoming this emotionless head of the Bene Gesserit that she wanted to always become. And then this was what helped her let go.
Maybe give her an Atreides to go after.
Something like that.
Yeah, like should I better the universe or should I kill this fucking Atreides guy that I hate? Whereas Tula already murdered all the Atreides.
Tula has a legend written about her.
Yes,
you know?
Tula is the boogeyman.
She's the
Tula
Atreides
is
killer.
Goddamn Baba Yaga, just in the shadows.
Yeah. Tula pulls Valya aside to tell her the big news. She says, I've subscribed to Bergenbeard. And then Valya says...
She says, no, I hate those fucking guys.
Valya really hates the Atreides.
Really fucking hates
Because she's
them.
like, in the first like minute, she's like, oh, I'm pregnant. And then Valya's like, the father's blah, blah, Atreides. And then she's like, did he grape you? And then she goes, no, it wasn't like that.
Which means I guess she never told Valya all the shit. Like, she's like, by the way, fell in love, still remembered my brother, murdered like 27 people.
But still love my brother. Got pregnant by an Atreides, but still love my brother and the family.
And my baby's cool. Like, he's half me, so he's a G. But I let one of them go, so now I'm the Baba Yaga.
But also, this made me think about Dune, because I'm only at the start of that. But the mystique around Paul at the start is he might be the male equivalent of a Bene Gesserit. Like, you know, the guy who can use the powers.
Now, this show did it first.
They should have did it first.
That's why I keep calling this show the Acolyte of HBO, because they did it first.
But I'm like thinking, like, is that what they were implying with Desmond? Is that he could have been the perfect genetic...
Oh, maybe not the perfect
Not
Bene
the
Gesserit,
perfect,
but
but-
yeah, basically they're saying, oh, Harkonnens and Atreides make really powerful people. Won't that come in handy in 10,000 years?
Yeah.
That's why I keep calling it the Acolyte, because with the Acolyte, one of the main problems was, oh, we did it first. Like, it was as if they wanted to put their stamp on anything. They're like, oh, a mechanical child of the Force that turns to the dark side. We have Osha. We did that first. A virgins in the Force that create, like, a pregnancy via the Force. No, we did that first.
Yeah.
That's what this show is doing with literally everything, because in the space of 30 years, Valya basically creates the entire Bene Gesserit the way it is in 10,000 years. She invents the voice. She basically foreruns the whole breeding program. Even though at the end of the episode, that's destroyed, she continues it somehow, because Paul exists.
It makes whatever happens on Warlock 9 completely irrelevant, because we know it goes back to where we started season 1 of this show even, or where she had it, because we know it comes back and they keep doing the same shit. So we know at some point there's going to be a side mission where Valya or Tula or someone goes back, whoops everyone back in line.
They either have to repair it or replace it.
Or just kill everybody. They're just like, we'll just start fresh. You know,
We've done it before.
We'll do it again. And so congratulations, because you've done a prequel show, we know that some of the things that are happening right now aren't going to have major implications throughout like the timeline. It's like, oh, this is just a little mess that has to get cleaned up.
That sounds like the Acolyte.
It does.
Because it's very much like, what do they do for the next 10,000 years? Because the whole thing about Dune is that it's a stagnant universe. And the reason the Bene Gesserit are so big is because they want to change that. So why are the Bene Gesserit the same in 10,000 years? Why are they also stagnant?
It's an interesting thing.
It only comes up because of this prequel, though. Like, otherwise, you could be like, oh, they took them 10,000 years to weasel their way into every single house. But no, Valya did that in 30 years.
Yeah. They already, you see it when they're at the Landsrad. Every house has a Bene Gesserit.
Episode 1, the two, like the king and the military
the dude guy, yeah.
They literally both have a Bene Gesserit ordering them around. Like, everything is already the Bene Gesserit. In 30 years, you've accomplished what
this show
could
should
have
have
10,000.
ended with something like that. But instead, it's like, we started the show at the end game.
Yeah, it's a dumb idea for a show. I stand by it. Oh yeah, in the flashback as well at the beginning, that's telling us things we already know. There's this whole monologue section in the thinking AI chamber where Valya literally goes, Havako Carino and Natalia, this chick, we're going to make them have a baby and that'll be the princess. We knew that in episode 1. They literally told us, Valya was like, I got these two people together to have a baby.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And then they're like, oh, but we have to keep him busy for a while. Francesca, can you go bang him for a bit? We found out last episode they've been banging for a bit. It's just pointless flashbacks.
It's that plus sprinkled in a little bit of magic that just fills in a bit of like people's like ability to call bullshit on things. Oh, you won't be able to kill me because of the imprinting.
Imprinting was weird because they brought that up last episode.
That was this episode.
No, the last episode as well.
She says that as well?
In a single line. Like, I missed it. I had to rewatch it while I was editing the last thing to see it. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what imprinting is, had to Google imprinting, and then it really is like, you imprinted on my
Like
daughter?
Twilight?
It's exactly like that. And yeah, they bring it up again this episode. They still don't explain how or whatever they're imprinting on people.
Like, what is it? Is it like a slow mental, like, overthrowing?
Is it the voice but slow?
Or is it magic? Because it stops him from being able to kill her.
Yes.
So it's something psychological in him.
And he never tries, so we don't know if it's like a mental block.
But also,
like
she could have just used the voice.
Yeah, at any point she could have just been like,
do you know what we could have seen? We could have seen her using some type of subtle version of the voice while he was sleeping. It's like a slow mind wash.
Apparently that's what it's like in the book. It's more like slow, and that's what people think Valya did to Harkonen when she like demolished him and roasted him.
It was like a mental domination.
Yeah, that's more what the voice in the book is like apparently. So it's like he killed himself semi because Valya wanted him to. And like, yeah, it is more book related. So all the book fans are like creaming everywhere because they're like, that's what I wanted, baby, yeah.
How about when they showed young Harkonen?
Oh, he had hair?
I was thinking just more, it's like, oh, I wonder which character is going to end up with him having a kid and being in love with him. And it's the one acolyte who's like, like looking back at him being like,
She's like, damn, that hairline's nice.
Oh, I guess she always liked
But
him.
Valya also had it figured out. Basically, she says, oh, we need to implement people to rich houses. Who will guide Harkonen? She turns to the one that we see in the future guiding Harkonen. And then she's like, but yes, who will sleep with him? Turns to the one that we know sleeps with him in the future. That's what I mean. She knows everything and it's pointless. But back to how we got here, how we thought she was going to change her plan.
Yes.
Because even earlier in the episode, just before she goes to talk to Harkonen, she literally says the line, it's time to change tactics. She does not change tactics. She does exactly the same thing. She has a new plan slightly, get arrested, but doesn't change that plan. In the same scene, Francesca comes to her and says, Harkonen's freaking out, we're screwed. And Valya goes, oh no, this is bad. And I wrote down, oh, we're actually seeing Valya on the back foot. This will be interesting. Yep. And then she turns towards the camera and then she turns back to talk to Francesca and she's like, I have a plan. And then they cut away. Like in one scene, she figured everything out and then like everything went off without a hitch. There's many hitches, but it's because her plan was stupid and she literally, like we said, could have gone to Harkonen when he was like, please help me. She would have been like, sweet, problem solved.
Yeah.
Like she did not need to keep roasting this man.
Literally all that needed to happen, and it would have saved a lot of time and effort, is, all right, here's what we're going to do. You're obviously going to be back on the throne. Your daughter, we want her to eventually be in power. So what we're going to do...
Maybe sooner.
We're going to teach her. You're going to teach her ways to rule. We're going to mold her into the perfect being as we always wanted. She will succeed you.
Yep.
Don't say she's taking the throne next week. Be like, she's eventually going to succeed you. That buys you more time.
But we don't even know if he wants to be on the throne. She could say, your daughter's going to take over. You can relax though, dude. Like... have a holiday. And he'd be like, oh, thank God, I fucking hate being king.
Well, his whole character arc has been like, he wants to be the kind of god emperor that his dad and his grandfather were.
True.
But he's not living up to it.
Yeah.
And so surely Valya would know that.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be like, she's supposed to know that. So she should be like, look, what we're going to do is you're going to be the face. We're going to do all these great things. You'll
take credit for it.
You're going to take credit for it all. And then eventually when it's time for you to sail into the sunset, you can have your own planet where you can do whatever you want and your daughter will succeed you.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's take some troops. Let's go kill Desmond. Yep. Okay, cool. And that's all they need to do. They need to kill Desmond and the wife. That's all that needs to happen.
That would have been an arc. Instead, Harkonen gets a flip-flop. Every episode, he's like, oh, who do I be friends with? Because for a bit there, you're right, him wanting to have greatness. That was why he was with Desmond, because Desmond could just murder people. That's a hardcore thing. Like, if he was known as, like, the Emperor of Death, that's something that his father might be like, damn, son.
He's doing, like, some Vlad the, like, Palest shit.
Yeah. Like, rule through fear if he has to. And, like, that's how he keeps the peace. More interesting than just, oh, there was peace. Francesca rocks up. He gets pussy whipped. Oh, actually, no, I do like vagina more than I like Desmond. He literally just does a bunch of nothing and then dies.
The role of the almighty God Emperor, it doesn't really explain the extent of his power, because in one hand, it shows that he's like, he is all-powerful. He's the one appointed leader of everything.
Of the universe,
Of the universe. But then...
we don't see him rule or make any decisions.
So the Emperor's supposed to be all-powerful, but then Desmond is interrogating young Atreides.
Yes.
And he's like, will you be willing to testify at the Landsrad? You don't need to testify. You have a God Emperor and you're his Bashir. You know, it's like you are all.
I don't
power.
think he's technically the God Emperor. We keep calling him that. I think the Worm is the first God Emperor.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's just fun to say. I'm saying it more from like a Warhammer 40k.
Yeah,
like he's the ruler of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, what you do become a god if you rule the universe, like the universe.
So he should be able to eliminate something like the Bene Gesserit.
Yep.
Without the need to talk to the Landsrad. This isn't like a country. He's the emperor of the universe, and he has the army with him.
That's why Desmond didn't feel like a threat to Valya, because he had the I win button. Like, as soon as the king was like, oh yeah, I don't like the Bene Gesserit anymore, he could just say, no more Bene Gesserit, guys. Like, I disagree with their practices. And like, I was like, oh, well, that's over then, I guess.
That's what we mean, I think, when we say the show is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's got really good bits, but as a whole, you're like, but why?
But it's like, you know what these characters are capable of. Like, that's what they use to get you hooked on these characters, is like, they show you great things that they can do or that they are capable of.
Tell you great things.
And then they're like, no, they won't use that to get to the end of the story. It's like they're gonna...
That's too powerful. We can't let them do that.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing about making us fall in love with a character by showing us or telling us about these accolades they have, is you have to follow that through. This episode does storylines probably my least favorite way of any of the episodes, because
all of them.
It includes... It's like, let's do all of them, you know? And you're cutting back and forth so much. We got young Valya, old Valya, you know, old Bene Gesserit, the little clan inside of the Bene Gesserit, the Emperor, freaking Desmond. You have Tula on her own side quest.
There was one that they didn't do. Constantine. He just disappeared.
Yes. I mean, yeah, we see his ship warp into Arrakis airspace.
That was
I was like, I went back and I watched that a few times. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, they're opening a wormhole.
Yeah. I thought it was the credits for a second, because I'm like, this is so cool. And then I'm like, oh no, we're still here. Jesus. I cannot fault this show and how it looks until they show CGI that isn't that. The cop chase.
When I saw them get into cop cars, I was like, oh no, they take one cop car and there's other cop cars there to chase them.
I don't know, even just sitting in the chair and having the chair spin around so it can become a limo seat. I'm like, that just looks like Star Wars. We're just generic sci-fi now. And it contrasts so poorly with the internal shots. All the internal shots look so cool. Like, they're all old-timey, like they're castles half the time. And then you cut to the outside and it's neon city lights and stuff. I'm like, gross. One of the many storylines is Kieran Atreides and the princess that also disappeared for most of the season after being pretty prevalent in the first episode. Kind of vanishes for a bit, rocks up last episode, yells a little bit at daddy, and then gets told to fuck off, and then she disappears. Well, actually, no. Her father says, watch her, and then she says, damn, I'm being watched all the time. And then the very next scene, she's breaking out Kieran. So it's like, I thought you were being watched.
Yeah.
Like, should there have been a scene of her, like, tying her blankets together and climbing down the window?
Her dad's like, you're in trouble. Take her to her room, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then when her brother comes in and the guards are also in there, she's like, get out of my room.
Yep.
The guard should have been like, no, you're not the fucking God Emperor.
But she goes to rescue Kieran in this episode. It's one of the only storylines that makes sense. Okay, there's only a few motivations in the show that they bother showing because they're so simple. You've got Francesca and Constantine and Tula and Desmond. Their motivation for doing the things they do is, I'm a mother, I love my child. So that's, I'm like, cool, easy, sorted. And then we have Francesca and Harkonen and Kieran and Inez, the daughter.
Yeah.
I'm horny. And I love this person, and that's why they do the things they do. And like that's pretty much all that they bother to go into in the show, because they're so stock standard. Because again, we haven't seen Inez and Kieran for episodes.
It's interesting that she's so willing still to throw everything away to save him, be with him, and hold up his ideologies.
Because we thought it was she wanted to take over Harkonen. That was one of our theories for how this would end. It would be the daughter like wresting power from her father. Wasn't that at all. She did just want to save her boyfriend that she loved again for some reason.
But it's like also Kieran is no longer the person he was at the start of the show. At the start of the show...
Can you explain him at the start for me? Sorry.
He was rebellion. Infiltrades. He was rebellion infiltrades. That was his goal. And that's who Inez is in love with. But the thing is, 2 episodes ago, everything around him crumbled. his rebellion ended up to be a part of the Bene Gesserit scheme, blah, blah, blah. Everything was a lie, gets captured.
Yep.
Inez still wants to be with episode 1 him.
But she didn't even know that side of him, really. She only knew Swordmaster, sexy guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, she has no real infatuation with this man because she found out all the other stuff and then got really angry at him. Mm-hmm. But then this episode, it feels like there was a whole conversation they had where he was like, oh, I hate him because of this. And she's like, damn, I also hate my dad because of this. Because like he yells out in this episode, I hate everything you stand for to Desmond or something. Like he hates the Imperium. But as far as we know from Kieran, he only hates the Imperium because they hoard the spice and they don't give it to the other houses. But those houses are all part of the Landsrad. So I'm assuming they're all rich still. What I'm getting is we haven't seen poorly treated houses. Like we haven't seen the Atreides are living
under
in
a boot
squabble.
or something. Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen them suffering. We've seen him be the Swordmaster, and we haven't seen a single other Atreides. We haven't even seen poor people.
Yeah.
Like, that was one thing Game of Thrones always tried to focus on for a little bit there. They were like, the plight of the small folk.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know anyone except all the rich people from these houses / the goons that just die in the background.
Well, Game of Thrones, it's the poor people are always there. Like, from when Joffrey takes power to, like, when he dies, or even past that, it always cuts back to what the people think of, like the queen and the king and stuff. They're like, we're gonna come in there and eat you.
And they're a boilerplate, so it's like they'll do something which will piss them off.
You don't see in this show, if this show wants to be some kind of political, Game of Thrones,
we don't see the effect of any of it.
We don't see, the effect of any of the decisions made in the universe. Whereas you're 2 episodes into Game of Thrones season 1, and you can see how these actions are affecting the world. It talks in these worldly matters, but we don't have any conversation about how it's going to affect the world.
Partly because, again, it's the universe. So you can't just have them walk through a small town, or like you can't have them walk through the kingdom and have poor people throw food at them.
Yeah.
Because it's a universe. Like there's plenty of space for everyone to spread out. But again, that's the show's fault, not the world itself, like not the universe itself. That's the show's fault. Seeing the plight of the small folk really would have helped us see a reason for Kieran to actually hate the Imperium. Because currently, he was just like scanning corridors and then shouting and trying to blow up a bunch of rich people.
Yeah.
And like, cool, don't care. It's just hard. It's because we haven't gone into his character, because we only really saw him through Inez or through the heist.
Which Kieran are we going to get? Are we going to is he going to continue on this path? Or right now the show is still trying to, I guess, build him as the rebel leader?
Well, going from the ending, all we know is that, he's the lovesick swordmaster, so he's gonna defend her. That's going to be his role. He's going to be a bodyguard now. Yeah, like this chick played to be such a big character. Like she made all the decisions.
I hated her this entire episode.
I haven't seen her. Like we've seen her, but like she's just been sitting there hanging out. Like she had one of the least interesting personalities of the children bunch.
But it wasn't like she was always seen as the second coming of the rebellious side of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
She's been kind of showed as like she's doing what she's told, and she's like, they don't play these characters enough to be like, oh, do you see, this is this, like, no matter what happens with the Bene Gesserit, who's in power, how powerful they are, there's always a small subsect who wants to, do this.
Yeah.
And that's where showing us more what was happening in the old days under the old Reverend Mother would have been like, a thing, because we've been like, oh, she's having the same ideas, but she's not necessarily communicating with her. This is naturally sprouting.
I would like to know what even the writers think the difference is. If it's literally just like breeding program versus no breeding
just
program.
How harsh it is.
That's not a big deal.
One is like, no, we want to get a sister on the throne, but we don't have to be so cutthroat about it.
That's why it took 10,000 years.
Do you think there's going to be any implications of the AI machine being broken? Even though they're still using it in 10,000 years, maybe?
So they've mentioned in the show, but if you only watch the show, you won't know. A mentat.
You mean the book?
No, the show, because they mention mentats.
They talk about mentats in the show?
They mention it, well, again, in one line. You could technically, I guess, replace the thinking machine with mentats.
Because that's all it is. A mentat is just
yeah, it's like they're the smart people that can do the things. Oh, that's right. There's a glossary, isn't there?
I just read the section on mentats the other day. Mentat. That class of imperial citizens trained for supreme accomplishments of logic. Human computers.
Yep. So they can possibly kind of do what the thinking machines does. Well, we get another acolyte moment. I apologize. In Valya's 30 years of reign, we have also invented fear as the mind killer.
Yes.
So we get the origins of that, which is apparently this techno virus doesn't kill you by being a virus. It kills you by making you feel fear.
Or just like lighting you on fire from the inside or something. Or just boil your blood.
It's not a biological reaction. It's a mind reaction. And apparently it makes you so scared that you burst into flames. But you can apparently just not be scared if you're a trained warrior, which is convenient because Valya is a trained monk.
Even the acolytes have control over these things.
Well, that's why they showed one fail, so that we're like, oh, it's a big deal.
Yeah, so it's like you think the godmother, best one we've ever had, best we've ever had, creator of the voice.
Best in the game.
You know, is that even she, if Tula wasn't there, she would have died.
Yes.
You know, realistically.
It had to be them together.
People who can control their body temperature, by the way, burning to death. It was a very interesting ending there where Tula's like...
I wouldn't say interesting in a good way either, though.
No, definitely not. Interesting in like a...
Why'd they do that?
When you find out that Luke and Leia are brother and sister and you think back to them kissing, you're like, interesting. No, it's just like, I was like, what is happening? And also like, you know, checking the time on the episode and realizing there's like 7 minutes left and she's like fighting the big bad in her brain.
Yeah.
And like you see her skin boil up and then like calm back down. And I'm just like, super healing too, you know. And then you're watching, I do admit the part that was playing out in her mind was kind of cool. You're seeing old Valya, young Valya cutting back and forth. You see her use the voice on her brother.
Also, sorry, that does make the voice a little weird because her brother was freezing to death and like the reason you can't swim,
everything's atrophying.
It's a physical thing. It's not, my mind is scared. So her telling her brother to swim, he should have been like, oh, I really want to, I'd still drown.
Yeah, it should have been a situation. Freezing water is different because like I think it's like you're in water for 30 seconds and you're like...
Yeah, and your muscles don't like that.
Well, your heart just gives out as well and stuff. So it should have been a situation where his mind was giving up.
Yes.
And then it's a convince him.
Even if he was like in the snow, like about to give up kind of deal. Like, you know how the whole character's dying in the snow, but the other character's saying, stay with me?
Yes.
Basically what Tula is doing to Valya
Cause
here.
him to fight a bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, the voice can be used like that.
Not overcome a physical challenge. Like, that's a strange thing to choose.
That combined training originated by the Bene Gesserit, which permits an adept to control others merely by selected tone shading of the voice.
Okay, pretty vague.
Pretty vague.
But it does say combined, whereas no, turns out Valya herself made it.
I mean, her use of the voice is very interesting, and I wish that they would have used that scene a bit earlier when she explains her first time using the voice. Because it's not the first time we've heard, my brother was drowning in a frozen lake and I used the voice to make him swim.
What if that was a scene that they just cut out of the first episode? Because the first episode was the third episode, and it was Valya from a young age learning all these things.
I mean...
And maybe she went out to find her brother.
Do you know what would have been cooler is... Her brother did do what he wanted to fight against the great houses or whatever, but he just kept on giving up. He just couldn't do it anymore. He was tired. But every time he came home, she used the voice to be like, keep going.
Erasing his memory almost.
And that just led him to it was so much strain because his body wanted to give up, but his mind, you know, was being overthrown so much, so consistently that it turned into her creating the voice. Her one more mission to her creating the voice to be like, let's do one more time, to him killing himself.
Yeah.
Bang. That cuts to him being like, this is your fault.
Especially because everyone blames her.
And then it creates a stigma for her around using the voice as well. 2 layers.
He also wanted to go do that. So yeah, that would be fun if he wanted to give up. Yeah. What's that show? There's something where a telepath makes someone do something. It reminds me of that, but like, yes, good.
Is it The Boys?
The Boys.
I don't know. That's the only thing.
No, Gen V.
There you go.
Yeah, Gen V. I think erases memory. Golden Boy goes insane because his girlfriend wipes his memory so many times that his subconscious is the only thing that remembers.
See, I would have loved to see something like that in
Yes, exactly that. That would have been sick.
And then after she conquers fear in her mind, because fear is the mind killer.
Yes, they say everything but that.
Yes.
They're like, fear will kill your body.
She somehow, maybe through the power that Desmond uses, she can access his memories, or she somehow accesses him.
Yes, I think it's because Desmond is using nanobots that go into her, and the virus is nanobots, which means they maybe also have a genetic memory or like a Wi-Fi connection to Desmond, which is how he triggers it. And yeah, she somehow does that because the Bene Gesserit are wizards.
But we see it clarifies a couple of things. The eyes, well, it clarifies a couple of things, that the eyes that we think are maybe Leto the Second, there may be the machine god, is actually just an operating robot.
It is an AI. It is a thinking machine.
It is a thinking machine doing surgery on Desmond. We see it. The eyes focus into one kind of eye that removes his eye. Lots of eyes here.
In a very generic sci-fi scene.
Implants things on him, and then, just so we know that it's Desmond, turns his eye so we can see him, and then to put the laser on his eye.
Yep, that made me giggle. That I like, okay, I got that it was Desmond, my guy. I didn't need to literally, the camera turns around. It's like when, it's in a movie or whatever where the character looks in the mirror so that you're certain that this first person perspective is them.
Yeah.
Like, woo. But it felt so generic. Every time they cut to a CGI thing, it just looks so different and contrasting.
It takes that great mystery away from it, where it's no longer the God Emperor or the machine god, whatever. It's now just like, this is just something Desmond saw.
They show a hooded figure controlling the robot.
Do you reckon that was Valya in the...
No, I've heard the Ixians or the Talaxu, whatever, thrown around. So it's some people we've never heard of.
Interesting.
A
third player in the Game of
universe.
Thrones.
Exactly. It is mysterious villain, and they're on Arrakis probably. So we can assume he probably never got eaten by Shai Hulud.
Yes, I
and
imagine
that was an
all
implanted memory.
Yeah.
A little bit like the boys, to make him think he was to make him think he was sent by God rather than a machine had taken over him.
Yeah.
It answers questions in the way the show Lost answers questions, where they kind of just divert the mystery. So like your questions are coming in, and instead of hitting what is Desmond,
we get a bigger mystery now.
Yeah, what is this other thing? Like we don't have answers, we just have different questions now.
Yeah. That's how the show does it, baby. Because if you resolve it, then that's something they can't use for the next season, you know?
Well, usually you would resolve character arcs, but no one had character arcs in this show. Like you said, Mark Strong's were, I want to be as good as my father. He just died.
Yeah.
The answer is no,
He
he's not
dies
as
and
good
he's
as
like,
his father.
Why?
Atreides failed at everything he tried, but is now with his
But his
girl, I
girlfriend
guess.
saved him.
Tula found her son, got arrested. I guess, it feels like Tula and Desmond catching up on the years would be an interesting thing. You're like, oh, but it's going to be a conversation of, oh, I tried to send you to a loving home to protect you from my sister. And he's like, oh, you fucked that up.
Yeah.
Like, I went to a shithole. And they're both like, oh, no. Like, that is not dramatic. That's just going to be them being upset and annoyed at each other because, like, he found his real mom.
That scene should have been more. And I know they're probably saving it for next season, where there's going to be like an interrogation scene where Tula like pleads to him and XYZ.
Valya never told Tula what she saw.
True, she never got to...
She never went into the minute details of somebody pull out his eye and check for nanobots. Because Tula could probably tell.
She said like a little bit, but...
Yeah, I guess the king's dead and the queen probably doesn't care. Like, she's probably on board with that at that point.
I guess the queen has power now, right? It's like a queen regent.
Yes.
Kind of.
And also might have connections to random planets that we don't know about. So maybe she's friends with the machine people. Who knows? But then we get the little montage of like all these scenes playing out at the end. Like Tula gets arrested. I think Desmond arrests her to be close to her. Like,
you think he does?
Like, I finally got my mum.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he understands that that's my mum. And it's like, if she's arrested...
Also, he was kind of passed out when she said that that's my child. He was kind of passed out when that happened.
But then she like touches his face and maybe genetic memories.
Genetic memories.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You always get away with shit. So
Damn,
maybe,
space magic.
yeah, maybe he's just arrested her so he can be like, oh, we'll talk later. Like, I'll deal with you later. So you can't escape.
We get the AI machine being destroyed by the new Bene Gesserit.
And then we get Valya, Kiran, and Inez. They arrive on Arrakis. We get the really cool shot of the space warping, and then we just get them walking out onto like a deserted Arrakis.
Onto the set of Dune 2.
On Dune Messiah. They're like, oh shit, this is nice. That is honestly solely for the purpose of, hey, look, we're on Arrakis now.
We're going to Arrakis next season, baby.
Yeah, there's Dune in my Dune now. I'm glad.
Now they have to get more money.
But it got renewed, and I'm glad, I guess. I'll watch next season.
Most definitely. We have a job to do.
I'm not looking forward to anything. And also, there's rumors it won't be out till 2027.
What?
Yeah, it might be a 3-year gap.
We might get 2 more Dune movies by then.
Because they only just renewed it. Apparently, there's not really any scripts in the works, and like they haven't touched it. So it's going to take them a year to do that, a year to pre-production and then a year to get it out. Because even House of the Dragon, their like flagship show, is taking 2 years to get one season.
Fuck.
So
man.
apparently this one might be 3 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. What did you think of the show? Did you actually like it? It seems like 50% of people like it, 50% of people don't, which is kind of in line with what I've heard about the books. Like 50% of people love only Frank's books and the rest of them are like, oh yeah, Brian's books are good too. So it's like, I don't know, maybe people are just happy to have more Dune.
Yeah. What's your rating on the show? I give it a 5.
Yeah.
I think the story was weak, but the setting was interesting and the scenery was beautiful at times.
Yeah, weirdly IGN was right on this one. Rare IGN W, this was a 5 out of 10 show.